Luck plays a big role in baseball, both real and fantasy. Well, stick around because today we are talking about 12 of the unluckiest hitters in the league and why they present a unique opportunity for you to stash or maybe even buy.
It's about that time.
Stone on Sports.
That's right, everybody. You are tuned in to the Stoned On Sports podcast. My name is Matt. As always, I'm joined here by Kyle. And just like I said a minute ago, we are looking at some unlucky hitters. And this year, there's no shortage of them. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. When we decided to talk about this topic, I thought it was great, really going into the underlying metrics more, trying to help you guys out with your fantasy teams, give you a little edge there where others in your league would miss it because you listen to us. So heck yeah, I'm excited to get started.
Yeah, me too. We got the chat popping off already. We got Dubo in there. Did you see the T-Wolves last night? Dude, that's something else. You know they got a squad when they can go into Denver and do what they did. That is crazy. And we got Loud Boy in here as well. My guys, happy you made it, brother. But let's jump into this. We are talking about unlucky hitters. And before we get too deep into it, I do want to give you our methodology. Basically, what we have done is we have looked at hitters with the biggest gap between their batting average and expected batting average, slugging and expected slugging, and then WOBA and ex-WOBA. WOBA is a new term. You haven't heard us use it here before. And basically all that does is takes the on-base percentage that we're all used to and weights it according to how somebody got on base. I think we can all agree a home run is worth more than a walk. And ex-WOBA is just the expected version of that same stat. So I think when we are talking about fantasy baseball's unluckiest hitters, it only makes sense to start with the absolute unluckiest hitter according to our criteria this season, and that is Colt Keith of the Detroit Tigers. He is somebody, he's a rookie this year. He wasn't among the heralded rookies, right? He's not Wyatt Langford or Evan Carter, anything like that. And if you drafted him, it was somewhere in the 23rd, 24th, 25th round. He's off to a pretty slow start, a 152, 227, 172 triple slash, no home runs, just 2 doubles, 5 runs, 10 walks, and 19 strikeouts. And when we dig farther into our criteria, we see there's about a 90-point difference between his batting average and expected batting average, a 210-point difference between his slugging and expected slugging, and over a 110-point difference between his WOBA and ex-WOBA. Adding up the total differences there across all 3 categories, we get a staggering 424-point difference. That is absolutely insane. But we're talking about a guy with a better than average chase rate, whiff rate, strikeout rate, and walk rate. The overall hard contact is below average, but his barrel rate is a little bit above average. He's got a 17% strikeout rate and a 9.1% walk rate. Those are both better than average there, and I think you're starting to see a theme here. Throughout the minors, he carried a manageable strikeout rate and a higher walk rate with a 370 plus on base percentage. So this guy has proven that he knows how to get on base. He's got a 185 BABIP so far, and that can partially be explained by the lack of hard contact. He was at 320 last year at AA. The 185 is just nuts. He's a good contact hitter. His swinging strike rate, 9.9%, which is a full point below league average. His overall contact rate is at 78.2% and a zone contact rate of 91%. And those are both well over league average. Unlucky. That's what this dude is. He pulls the ball more than most. The remainder of his batted ball data is around league average. He is struggling, though, with breaking and off-speed stuff, hitting just a combined 142 against them, and that's where 17 of his 19 strikeouts have come from. But still, the Tigers, they're showing confidence in him, right? He's a young guy. It's his first month in the show. He's still hitting anywhere between 5th and 7th in the lineup and playing every day or almost every day. and things have looked up a little bit here so far in May. His on base percentage is about 50 points higher. Slugging is about 80 points higher. So I'll take any glimmer of hope that I can find. I think the Tigers at the end of the day are going to let him figure it out at the MLB level. And I think that by the end of the year, he can be something close to roughly average for the rest of the year, right? And to get there, he's going to need to be better than average. So you take these unlucky players who are starting out slow or just looking bad, for them to get to average, they're going to have to be so much better than average itself that you're really going to get some gains there. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, him being sent down to AAA to build some confidence is well within his range of outcomes. But still, call me a homer. But at the end of the day, I believe in him.
Yeah. I mean, I really like that the strikeout rate's only 17%, and he walks half as much as he strikes out. There's just so much to like about him, and he's got that plus raw power. He showed it in the upper levels of the majors. He was one of the best hitters in the major or minor leagues last year, I should say, hitting 306, 27 homers, 60 walks, 121 strikeouts. He also was third among all minor leaguers with 68 extra base hits and fifth with 280 total bases over 126 games last season. So looking at him, I watch a lot of Tigers. Obviously, we both do, and he definitely needs to start squaring up some more balls. But I think he'll settle in. I think the hits will drop, and you'll start to see some of that power show through.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Sorry, guys. One sec here. All right. Next up is Brandon Nimmo. So obviously, hitter to add, but he's just been very, very unlucky. In fact, he's probably one of the least fortunate hitters in major leagues if you go with slugging percentage and his actual. He's at 370 slugging. His expected is at 518, 148 point difference. Batting average, almost 100 point difference. So he's the 16th fantasy outfielder. So he's still getting you some points, 3.1 a game. Really, I think that what has saved him is in large part to his walks and that 375 on base percentage. So he's not off to a terrible start, but those big differences in the slugging, batting average, I mean, rotten luck is really the only explanation. He's hitting the ball harder than average than he was last year. He's barreling more pitches than he did a year ago. Plate approach is really as great as ever. And he was actually walking at a higher, and he's walking at a higher rate while striking out a bit less as well. I mean, this is a guy that had 24 homers last year with a OPS of 829. So in 33 games, he's got 27 hits, 7 of them were doubles. 1 triple, 3 home runs, 21 RBIs, 17 runs, 24 walks, 31 strikeouts, a couple stolen bases. The full slash line is 221, 375, 369 for a 744 OPS, which is, not bad. You want to see that slugging come up. The walk rate is just amazing. It's, pretty much double league average. And that strikeout rate I mentioned too is a couple percent under average as well. And his BABIP's contributing to some of that luck. It's a bit low at 273, roughly 20 points lower than league average. But, you look at his StatCast, it's extremely red. We say see a red too much, so I'll just say extremely red, but above average in all categories, several in the top 17% or better. As well, that walk rate that is so excellent is top 5% in the league. And those barrels, he's got 11 barrels this year already. Remember, barrels are any batted ball with an exit velocity of at least 98 miles an hour and a launch angle between 26 and 30 degrees. 3 of those 11 batted balls, or those barrels, I should say, they've been homers. 2 have been lineouts. The other 6, I looked at all of them. All 6 of them were fly balls right to the warning track. So it's still cooler. I think if it was in the humid summer, most of those would have been out. Most of those would have been bye-bye for sure. So I think Citi Field plays more like a pitcher park, especially now early in the season, and then when it comes a lot fairer as temperatures rise. Hard hit rate is awesome at 48.4. It's 7 points higher than his career norm, and a whopping 12% higher than the current MLB average. Launch angle is flat from last year. at 12.2, but still pretty good, but up 2.4 degrees from his career average. Ground ball rate is down from last season and also down over 7% from his career averages. The contact in the zone, excellent, 84.7%. It's 2.5% higher than league average. And then I mentioned his chase rate a little bit earlier. It's amazing at 21.2. That's 7% lower than league average. And when he does chase, the contact rate is over 60%. That's above his career average. That's above the MLB average as well. He's only been above 60% twice in his career, a couple seasons ago in 22 and his rookie year. So if you 76% own you. For the 24% that don't, you should get him. He leads off exclusively there in New York. Extra at bats, warmer weather coming soon. Grab him if he's available.
Yeah, he is coming into draft season this year. He was part of my ideal outfield, and I am happy to say that I roster him in a league. And I like, you just touched on it, he plays every day. I love the hard contact. You talk about his BABIP. Not only is it below league average, it's 60 points below his career average.
Yeah.
I like the big jump in his line drive rate, and he's been more patient than most this year. And a lot of it is because he's seeing a lot fewer pitches in the zone than he has in years past. And I think part of that is the league understanding that, hey, this dude knows what he's doing with a bat in his hand.
Yeah.
Now is the time to buy on him, because there are still people that view him with a negative outlook simply because the result stats are not where we want them to be. But if you look at his expected stats, his expected batting average, his expected slugging, and his xWOBA are both way above league average. StatCast absolutely loves this guy, like we talked about. Get him now while you can, because the price is going to go up sooner rather than later. So as we take this march down the unluckiest hitters, the next one seems like this dude is always on a weekly waiver wire list, probably half the time throughout the season. And that's first baseman Ty France of the Seattle Mariners. So far on the season, he's been solid, I guess. A 248 average, 306 on base, 345 slug, good for an OPS just a hair over 650. He's went yard twice, drove in 8, scored 11 times himself. He does have 5 doubles to go with those 2 home runs, 9 walks, 28 strikeouts. You look at the differences in his batting average and expected batting average, there's about a 35-point difference there. Slugging is up to 131-point difference, and you've got a xWOBA difference well over 50 points. In total, it's around 220 points of difference there. And I do want to say this is not the most scientific method to arrive at these conclusions, but basically what we're looking for is something to kind of get us pointed in the right direction and establish where the value might lie. His average slugging, on base, WOBA, and OPS are all well below his career norms. He's got good hard contact. He's around the top 25% across the board in hard hit. Exit velocity, max exit velocity is solid. His barrel rate is middle of the road, that I would say. Where'd we go here? All right, click the wrong button. He's got a better than average chase and whiff rate. Swinging strike rate is nice too. His chase rate's actually a career low, 25.3%, down 8 points from last year. At the end of the day, he still strikes out a little more than you'd like. He's around 21.5%, but it's still below league average, but just a hair. He's also walking at a career high 7.4% rate. He is a mid to back of the order bat. He hits somewhere between 5th and 7th. And, look, Seattle's offense is heating up as a whole, right? Top 5-ish in home runs, average on base, slugging, and OPS over the last 7 days. He's hitting the ball on the ground a lot more, though. In seasons past, that ground ball rate's up just a hair under 46%. I'd like to see him put the ball in the air a little bit more. And he also essentially cut his pull rate in half, down to just 24.7%, which is well below average. And like I was saying earlier, he seems to be the in-season waiver wire target list darling. I think he's a good ad. I think eventually the production is going to catch up to the potential with him, and I want to have him on my roster when that happens.
Absolutely. In the off season, he went to work there. So he went to Driveline Baseball there. A great company that helps um, hitters fine tune their swing, and he worked on his swing. He went to the lab as well. He was last year primarily just kind of hitting with just his hands. His sequencing from the ground up was kind of off, and he cleaned up these mechanics there that he created himself. With years of bad habits in his swing, he had a close to 3.5 miles per hour on the bat speed this offseason. And when everything is done correctly, the proper swing, so to speak, your barrel is in the zone a lot longer, and it gives you some more room for air as well. Changes in your swing, man, usually take a while to get all dialed in real game life, not just at Driveline. So and the mental approach to do so can take some time to dial back in. I think he can and will get better this season, especially since Julio Rodriguez is just freaking garbage there. I need somebody to help that lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got James Coffey in the chat. What's going on, James? He's got a Roto League. Please rank the following starting pitchers available on the waiver wire: Logan Webb, Zach Eflin, Spencer Turnbull, and Ronel Blanco. The one thing that jumps out to me immediately is that Logan Webb is on the wire. It absolutely, this dude's a top 10 starting pitcher. I don't know why he is on the wire, but he should not be. He is far and away the number one for me there. After that, I'm going with Zach Eflin. Turnbull and Ronel Blanco, I'm going to give Blanco the edge because Turnbull's status in the rotation there in Philly is kind of up in the air with the return of Taijuan Walker. If he stays in the rotation, I like him a little bit better, more of a hot hand approach. And look, I understand Ronel Blanco threw the no-hitter earlier and followed that up with another amazing start. But right now, Philly is on fire, whereas Houston has kind of sputtered throughout the year. And I like the opportunity to gain wins with Turnbull better than I do from Blanco.
Yeah. I think that says it all. I think that's pretty good. Hopefully that helped you out, James. Appreciate you popping in here or watching the whole thing. We love it. The interaction here with our viewers. Good stuff. Oh, he just said thanks a bunch. League mate just dropped Webb. Wow. Well, take advantage of that, James.
Yes.
If you're in Fab or whatever, I would put a lot of money in that. 50% of what I got left, at least.
Yes. Yep. Logan Webb, he was my pick, I believe, this year for NL Cy Young. He is fantastic. He's a workhorse. He doesn't strike out as many as some of the other elite pitchers, but it seems like he goes 7 innings every single start. He's a ground ball machine. He doesn't give up a lot of hits or a lot of walks. And look, any pitcher can have a shitty start. He just happened to have one in his last start out there. That just creates opportunity for you, buddy.
Yep. Excellent. Good luck, James. Good luck, man. Next up, headed down to St. Louis. We got Nolan Gorman with the St. Louis Cardinals. Dual eligible at second and third base. He's 56% owned in Yahoo. This guy was a 19th overall pick a few years ago in 2018. He's currently number 47, second baseman eligible player in fantasy right now. He's just averaging 1.5 points per game. That expected batting average, 58 points higher than his actual. And that slugging, expected slugging, where he's in the top 35% of the league, is over 100 points higher than his actual slugging of 336. He hasn't done so well the last 6 games. He's just 1 for 17, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. He's played in most of the games, 31 games. Just 20 hits, 5 doubles, 4 homers, 12 RBIs, 8 runs scored with 11 walks and a lot of Ks at 40. Low walk rate's nice. It's above average at ouch. That strikeout rate is 33.1. He's in the bottom 7%, and he's been in the over 30% the last 2 seasons as well. And just those 31 games played, he's just had 8 games without a strikeout recorded. So, began the season hitting in the 3 hole. Since mid-April, he's kind of dropped in the order because he's struggling a bit there, down in the 6, 7, 8 hole as well. Getting unlucky, contributing to that, unlucky start. The BABIP's low by about 50 points at 242. his barrels sweet spot, they're far above average, which is great, but everything else is kind of below average. There exit velocities in the bottom 9%. I expect that to course correct. He was at 91 mile an hour last season, good for top 23% in the league. So some things that you see that just where he did well in last year, you just know that he's going to turn the corner on it a bit. Hard hit rate is down a lot at 35.7. He was at 48.5% in hard hit. He finished top 25% in the league. There's another one I expect that he'll have to work extra hard here to get back to an average player. Chase and whiff rate, horrible, bottom 20%. Really wasn't too much better in that respect last year either. Launch angle of 16.3, it's dropped from last season by almost 6 degrees, down from over 4 degrees from his career norm. And the fly ball rate is way down from last season. He's down about 14%. So look for that to improve as well. And he's not pulling the ball like he did the last couple seasons. He's at a low 32.9 after being over 40% in his career. He pulled he's a lefty, so he pulled 34 balls to right field last season. 17, bye-bye, homers. So there's just a lot of things that when you're looking at these underlying metrics that you see, some improvements are going to happen. His weak percentage is kind of bad as well. That's any batted ball that's hit below 59 miles an hour, regardless of the launch angle. He's at 7.1%. That's extremely high for anybody. MLB average is 3.9. We'll see. He's just not figuring everything out right now. In the past, he dealt with back problems and that really helped. I really was kind of higher on him this year. He lost about 10 pounds in the offseason. Started eating healthier. And those weight changes like that, they can, if you don't think it, but as a professional baseball player, it can really affect your mechanics. It can take some time to dial some stuff back in that just didn't get worked out fully in spring training. I love his ability to stand up to left-handed pitching as well. He was, as a rookie a couple of years ago, he was pretty sparingly used against lefties as a rookie. But last season, they started giving him some at-bats. He got 73 against lefties and actually had a higher OPS with that small sample size than he did against righties. And this year, he's kept that up as well. Higher OPS versus same side pitching. So he's gotten a little advantage there. Throughout his, major league career so far, his early major league career, he's been something of a streaky hitter. I think his power or his profile as a power hitter allows for that, but I still think you should grab him if you're needing some help, extra depth. The dual eligibility helps, and I expect him to turn things around.
Yeah, the big thing that jumps out to me with him is it's very difficult to be successful when you strike out 1 out of every 3 times you walk up to the plate. Right. But that's nothing new. And I understand in the off season and coming into draft season, you look at last year and you see 27 home runs in just 119 games. And you think, damn, maybe there's something there. He is very aggressive at the plate. But he's somebody who he really needs to continue to work on his pitch recognition and zone control. The walk rate being a hair above average does kind of give me a little bit of hope that that's something that he can do. But that chase rate, damn, I don't want to say it seems like he's constantly getting fooled, but at the same time, your ball to bat skills have got to be better. All that said, I think he can do it. He's one hell of a talented player. And the Cardinals just kind of have this knack for having guys in their system and bringing them up who they're not superstars, but they just usually always have a bunch of just damn good players. Right now, I think he's a good, cheap source of power. He's got 4 home runs so far, and he's driven in 12. So if you're looking for a bench bat that can give you some power, I think you could do a lot worse than him. I do think his average and slugging and on base are going to improve as the year goes on. So make yourself a part of those gains and stick him on your bench and at least give him a couple weeks to see what he can do. He ain't going to hurt you if you ain't playing him.
This is true.
So one of the fun things about researching for these episodes is there's a lot of players that we're going to talk about today that we've not profiled yet this season, either in during draft season or as things have gone along. And one of those players is up next. It's Jung Hoo Lee from the San Francisco Giants. This dude is something else. He is a contact machine.
He is.
Right. And you look at the triple slash and you wouldn't think it, right? He's hitting 252 with just a 304 on base and a 319 slug. In OPS, just under 6.25. He's gone yard a couple times. He's driven in 7. He's stolen a couple bases, 10 walks, 22 strikeouts, and he's thrown in 3 doubles as well. He's got a 44-point difference between his batting average and expected batting average, 111-point difference between his slugging and expected slugging. His WOBA and ex-WOBA, we're looking at a 50-point difference there. And he's somebody who he leads off for San Francisco there, but he hit third the other day against a lefty, which was kind of interesting. You don't usually see that happen. You moving your leadoff hitter into a run-producing role against same-side pitching. He showed a little bit of pop in the KBO. And that can be hard to project, right? It's, somewhere around AA, AAA level. I think it's obviously a tier below Japan, but I think he can get you 10 home runs this season just based on his exit velocity and hard hit rate. And even now, StatCast has his expected home runs at 4. So double what he's got. And you look at hard hit rate over 43%. You look at an exit velocity just a hair under 90 miles an hour, and he's fast. Like the dude can run, yet he's got a 260 BABIP. In the power department, his park out there in San Francisco isn't really going to do him any favors, but he's shown elite contact skills.
Yes.
Overall, he's got a 91.3% contact rate, making contact in the zone at just under 96%. A 3.8% swinging strike rate, his strikeout rate at 8.1%, whiff rate of 9.9. Like it's ridiculous. Now the walk rate is a little bit low, leaves something to be desired at just 6.8%, but he is adjusting, coming to the other side of the planet and playing baseball in the most difficult place in the world to do it here. But in the KBO, he was over 8% every year but one. And remember, this dude's just 25 years old. There's a lot to adjust to here for him, but I'm very confident that he's going to get that walk rate up and his on-base percentage as a result. He's not been the greatest over the past couple of weeks. He started out really hot and, the season ebbs and flows, right? But he represents a prime buying opportunity. If he's rostered in your league, if he's on the wire, scoop him up. He carried a high triple slash and WOBA in the KBO. And I think we're going to see some nice gains for him over the remainder of the season as he continues to get more comfortable here in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, when I was researching him, I just could not believe what I was seeing. Those contact skills, you mentioned that the contact rate in the zone, he is the 6th best hitter in the league at that. Out of hundreds of hitters. It's amazing. That strikeout rate you mentioned is very good at that 8.1%. That's top 1% in the league, obviously. It's just superb. I can't believe there's some amazing stuff. And when we talk about these guys, I was just talking to Matt earlier. This is somebody I will be paying attention to very close next year for draft season.
Absolutely. We got James back in the chat. Thanks for answering questions. Hey, that's what we're here for, man.
Absolutely.
We are fantasy baseball fans and players just like you. Picked up Jack Flaherty, and he's been good thus far, but not sure whether to hold on or to try and trade him for another SP. If so, any range of SP to target? I'm holding him. Yes. Detroit brought him in on a prove-it deal, so he's, he's in a contract year. He's pitching for his next contract, and Chris Fetter has done an amazing job with the rotation there in Detroit. You look at what he's done with Skubal. Mize has looked good. Reese Olson is looking good, and quite frankly, he's been hot. So ride the hot streak as long as you can. I don't necessarily think you're really going to get amazing value for him if you try and trade him simply because starting pitcher for starting pitcher swaps, it's generally about even. Run support there in Detroit is a little bit of a concern on a game-to-game basis, but the way he's pitching, the way he's missing bats, he's not going to need a whole hell of a lot of it.
Yeah, he was number one pitcher in month of April with swing strike percentage, I think.
Yeah,
So
just it was otherworldly too.
yeah, it was very good. Great question, James. Yeah, hold definitely. I like it for sure. Next up, we got MJ Melendez, outfielder and catcher for the Kansas City Royals. He is the number 85th fantasy outfielder right now, 1.8 points per game. He's played in 31 games, just 19 hits, 9 of them singles, 6 doubles. You like to see that. 4 homers, 12 RBIs, 9 runs, 9 walks, 28 Ks, 2 stolen bases. Batting average is 186. He's actually 63 points lower there in his expected batting average, and his slugging's around 363, and he's a full 51 points lower than his expected slugging of 414. So he's maybe not grossly, he's underperforming this far. He's unlucky so far. The walk rate's right about average at 8.1. Strikeout rate's a few percent high. He's in the bottom 30% of players in the league. This is, and his BABIP's real low too, 214. Remember, MLB average is around 290. Last year he was good. He slashed 235, 316, 398, had an OPS of 713. Really liked him. Getting some hard contact. Hard hit rates average, but his exit velo and barrel rate are well above average in the top 30% this year. I think you just look at metrics and they support that Melendez was better last year than his surface level metrics indicated. Okay. It's especially true in his decision making at the plate and the power he had in the second half. He was impressive in the second half last season. He hit 272 with 8 home runs, 21 RBIs in the last 49 games. And in that same stretch, he improved his walk rate by 0.5%, cut his strikeout rate by 3, and his batting average went up 70 points. You really like that. Pitcher list, a website I frequent quite a bit. They use a metric called decision value. So it's it's a modeled value of a hitter's decision to swing or take, and it uses runs per 100 pitches. 1.1 runs per 100 pitches was about the MLB average last year. For the whole season, he sat above the league average at 1.2, but really down the stretch, like I mentioned those stats just before, he was in the 90th percentile with 2 runs per 100 pitches. Like you just like to see things like that with him. There's just so many things. Baseball is full of data and I love it. Let's talk about him. So he is a former catcher and he played some outfield last year. He's full-time there this year. Do you know how hard it is to switch positions like that? It's very hard. He spent most of the offseason learning more about being an outfielder, making reads, running the right routes for angles on balls, etc. Learning a new position can really take a toll on your overall performance. It takes some time. I think he has huge offensive potential. We saw last year that he hits the ball extremely hard. He can hit them to all fields. His at-bats got much more consistent as the season went on there in the second half of the year. I look for him to turn the corner this year. Pick him up to stash.
Yeah, the one thing I like about him is I like that, his walk rate is up, his strikeout rate is down year over year, and he's shown he can carry roughly a league average triple slash, right?
Yep.
Which is a hell of a long ways from where he is right now. Looking at his StatCast data, love the exit velocity, love the barrel rate, the hard hit rate's good. The sweet spot, which is just a measure of launch angle, is absolutely atrocious. You're going to have a difficult time finding success when you beat the ball into the damn ground. I don't give a shit how hard you hit it. One thing that was kind of troubling, though, this year he's hitting just 0.77 against off-speed pitches. And I don't know if it's because he is getting just completely fooled by them and ending up way out in front of them and making soft contact or what. But that's got to get better. Just law of averages, right? Like that has to improve. Look, the Royals have shown they can be a streaky offense, and when they're going well, Melendez can be a nice contributor to that. When they go cold, it seems like everybody does. I think he's another dude that can end up being a cheap source of power for you. He's kind of streaky, so keep an eye on him when you see he's starting to heat up a little bit. That's the time to grab him. But for now, stash him on your bench and take a look and see what happens.
Heck yeah. We got a quick question here in the chat from Say on God. Thoughts on Johnny DeLuca?
Johnny DeLuca. Well, that's a good one. He has started off about as hot as you can start off, right? Something like 10 RBIs in his first 4 or 5 games. And I forget the exact number. Obviously, he's not going to keep that up. I do think there is some opportunity down there in Tampa Bay for somebody like him to come in and provide that spark that this team has needed. I know we talked a little bit about that last week, how just the Rays overall have just been in like a damn season-long slump.
Right.
They just get Josh Lowe back.
That's what I'm hoping for, Josh Lowe.
Yep. DeLuca comes in. He provides a spark. He's one of those dudes. I'm going to ride him while he's hot, but I'm not going to be afraid to pull the trigger when I see that he's starting to cool off. If you get some owner out there who is panicking and comes along and wants to trade for the hot commodity, absolutely work to maximize his value.
Great question. Heck yeah.
So it seems like we got more in here.
Oh, that's some
horse shit.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, because we just constantly talk about Cardinals on here, and I don't understand how, no matter what the criteria is, there's always a Cardinal that fits it. This one is Brendan Donovan. Dude plays kind of all over the field there in St. Louis. So far this season, he's got a 216, 294, 358 triple slash, 652 OPS, went yard 3 times. He's driven in 18, which isn't bad. 11 walks against 20 strikeouts. I'll take. He's scored 14 runs, and he's got 8 doubles to go with those home runs. He's got a 58-point gap in his batting average and expected batting average, 76 points when it comes to slugging, and 48 with the weighted on base. That's a 182-point total difference. You look at his stat cast, chase rate, whiff rate, strikeout rate, fantastic. All in the top 5 or 6%. His walk rate is a little bit below average, right? He's a little over 7%. Major league average is around 8.5%. But still, I'm happy with what he's giving me in that regard. You look at his hard hit data, it's all kind of middle of the road, right? He's got an exit velocity of just over 89 miles an hour, barrel rate just under 7, hard hit just under 40, sweet spot just over 34. So the quality of contact data, again, it's middle of the road. The dude's got a 228 BABIP and a career 306 BABIP. So that over the course of the next couple months is going to correct itself. And you love the absolutely excellent contact skills. He's got an 87.4% overall contact rate, 91.8 in the zone. Those are both well above average. And outstanding 4.8% swinging strike rate. Dude plays every day. He leads off. He will occasionally get dropped down in the order against lefties. Last year, he feasted on fastballs and off-speed stuff, but he's kind of struggled with them this year. However, he has cut his whiff rate on fastballs and off-speed pitches, so he is hitting them more frequently. And it almost kind of looks like he's refining his approach, maybe looking for more power. His pull percent and fly ball percent are both at career high levels and well above average. And it's been a steady climb in that regard, season over the last few years. And that makes me believe it's not so much an approach change as it is a refinement to his approach. Love the contact skills, and you'll hear us say it on here all the time. Good shit happens when you put the ball in play, and that's what he does.
Exactly. I was answering a question. You talked about his UCL.
I did not.
So yeah, he had partially torn UCL in his right elbow that ended his season last year as well. He ended up going with the internal brace there instead of Tommy John, and that rehab program really still butted up to the beginning of spring training. I think he's just another guy that needs some more time as well. This is a guy that set career highs last season in batting average at 284, 11 home runs was a career high, his slugging of 422 and OPS of 787, all career highs. You gotta love it. He's he had batting leadoff all year until yesterday. Got dropped down to 7th. So I didn't see who he was facing. I forget, but strange that he's batted leadoff every game but yesterday.
Yeah, it is. And now it's got me curious because I did make a note of it. Yeah, it was against a lefty. I don't remember who they played yesterday, but they played a lefty on Sunday and Monday. On Sunday, he led off. On Monday, they dropped him down.
Yeah.
And then today he's right back at the top of the order.
Yeah, that figures. Excellent. All right, next up, let's go with another catcher, eh? Well, Melendez isn't really catching right now, but all right. Shea Langeliers with the Oakland Athletics. He is actually the number 14 fantasy catcher this season. I was a little bit shocked on that. So not too bad there. He scores about 2.2 a game in fantasy points. Batting average, almost 60 points lower than his expected batting average, and that slugging's 100 points higher than his actual. That's pretty damn unlucky. In 32 games played, he's 19 hits and 118 plate appearances, 3 doubles, a triple, 7 homers. I really like that. 16 RBIs, 13 runs, just 7 walks, 26 Ks. His slashing 179, 237, 425 with a 662 OPS. Let's see. 11 of those 19 hits he had were for extra bases. 7 of them dingers. Getting damn unlucky with his BABIP, though. It's very low at 158. I think we should see some more improvement on that as well. Doesn't walk much. He's in the bottom 20% in the league and walks, and his K rate is average at 22%, but did improve on it a whopping 7% over last season. Love to see that. Doing a great job hitting the ball hard, just as he did last year. His hard hit rate's at 42.2, just above average, but his barrel rate is very good at 18.1, good for top 3% in the league and almost 5% improvement from last season. And that average exit velo, well above average at 91, good for 77th percentile in StatCast rankings. And I am still seeing some of the swing and miss problems he had last season, although there are some improvements. His chase rate was 33%. He's bottom 20% in the league. And his riff rate is bad as well, in the bottom 35%. While his whiffs on breaking balls has increased 3%, his whiffs versus fastballs has improved over 5%. And whiffs versus off speed, a massive improvement of over 15%. Kind of in some nice correlation there. His slugging percentage versus those off speed pitches has improved 280 damn points over last year. That is a huge improvement. He also makes good contact in the zone, 82.9, and while that's just 1% better than league average, it's almost a 7% improvement for him over last season. I mentioned a moment ago, he chases around 33% of the time. When he chases, he gets contact almost 53% of the time, and it's 5% worse than league average, but 5% better than his career norm. So a lot of things to like there, even though the swing and miss is not exactly where you want it. He bats kind of all around, anywhere from 3 to the 9 hole, but he finds himself in 4, 5, and 6 holes most often. I think it's going to offer him some more chances for RBIs soon. And last season, the power numbers were really there. He hit 22 home runs. He had 19 doubles, 4 triples, and 63 RBIs last season. He was among the MLB lead in home runs and RBIs for catchers as well. And he's a damn decent catcher. He'll be out there almost every game, and he's DH'd a few times this year too, when he got a break behind the plate. And this guy's got the tools. Let's not forget, he was a 9th overall pick in the draft in 2019. I would stash him if you can.
Absolutely. Before I jump in with my few notes here on Langeliers, because I think you covered just about everything there is to talk about with
Sure
that
did.
guy. We got James in here. Your preference for one prospect to add from the following list: Junior Caminero, Jackson Holiday, or Jackson Jobe? Well, if I were to ask Kyle this question, I think he would say Jackson Jobe because of that old English D right there on his forehead, which I guess is better than a mushroom tattoo.
I like Caminero too, but yeah.
Yeah. The problem with Caminero is, like, when is this dude getting called up? Because it doesn't seem like he has anything left to prove at AAA. And I want to say with Tampa, it's almost like they're waiting for the Super 2 deadline before they want to bring him up. They'll already get the extra year of service time. Jackson Holiday, he's a number one prospect in baseball for a reason, right? He's got an outstanding hit tool. There's going to be some power there once he hits his prime, although there ain't going to be that much this year. I would flip a coin between Caminero and Holiday because I don't know who's going to be back up next. Jobe just went on the injured list with a hamstring injury, and I wouldn't expect him to be up until late in the season anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe July, August, maybe he ends up being just a September call up, or, he'll come up for, one of the games for a doubleheader or something like that. But I think Jackson Jobe is more a play for next year. And you mentioned you have Skeens. Skeens I expect up by the end of the month. So for me, I'm flipping a coin between Caminero and Holiday, whichever your preference is. To me, they're roughly equal.
Excellent. Great question, James. Appreciate that. You got anything to add about Langeliers?
Yeah, one thing, he gave you 22 home runs last season along with 19 doubles, so the power is there. He's never going to carry a high average. It's not him, but you want him on the team because of his hot streaks and the power that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And just over his last 10 games, he's only got 7 hits, and you think, well, it's kind of shitty. Well, 5 of them are extra base hits, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and a triple, which you do not expect from somebody behind the plate, but you'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. So here's another dude that we've not really touched. Damn it. We got to quit saying we're touching on these guys. We've not really talked about, and that is the Washington Nationals, Joey Meneses. He's kind of a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really hit the show until he was 30 years old. And you typically don't really hold out a whole lot of hope for dudes like that, but he's done fairly well. Now this year, 217, 290, 243 triple slash, an OPS that hasn't even cracked 540, hasn't gone yard yet. He has driven in 16 runs, 11 walks, 23 strikeouts. He's got just 3 extra base hits. His batting average and expected batting average are actually pretty damn close. There's about 20 points of difference there, and they're both just a hair below league average, right? The big difference is in his slugging and expected slugging, over a 100-point difference there. And the gap between his WOBA and ex-WOBA is around 40 to 50 points as well. And we're looking between the three at around 170-point difference. And we were hopeful coming into the year, right? He had himself a nice spring. His hard contact, though, it's a mixed bag. His hard hit rate and max EV are both well above average. His average exit velocity and barrel rate are below average. You love the whiff rate, though. 17.8%, good for 86th percentile. Only strikes out a little over 17.5% of the time. That's in the top quarter of the league, and he walks around average. His BABIP is sitting at 263 coming into play today. That is 70 points below his career average. His ex-WOBA is pretty much on par with where it was last year, but his WOBA is down 68 points. But in terms of his contact, he's well above average. Overall at 83.9% in the zone, an outstanding 91.3%. His 8% swinging strike rate is 3 points below league average. So for him, putting the ball in play is not the issue. He's been moved down in the order to kind of help relieve some pressure on him. He'd been batting cleanup, but he's down to sixth over the past couple games. And I think a big part of the issue is his launch angle is pretty much cut in half from last season down to just 5.8 degrees. But he is making strides in terms of his plate discipline that you want to see. He lowered his K rate. He's increasing his walk rate. And I think by the end of the season, you're going to have a reasonable facsimile of what he did last year. While not huge numbers, it's more so, and this is kind of the theme of the show, the rate he would have to go at to get there is well above what he did last year. And so you can realize those gains with him. And the Nationals, they're a young team, but they got a sneaky little offense there. They can put some runs on the board. And if you can get somebody right in the middle of that and ride the hot streaks when they come, you got a nice little profit center there.
You do. Flashing back to 2022, he played in the show 56 games. Okay. Just 56 games, 20 homers, 64 RBIs, 51 runs scored. Just amazing. I mean, he's got the tools. He does. I mean, his production plummeted. Last season he was 13 homers in 154 games, but he still had almost 100 RBIs. It was at 89 RBIs, and he had a bum knee pretty much the whole year that held him back a bit. So, if he can regain that power stroke that he had in 2022, he could be reliable fantasy asset for sure. I like him. All right. Heading around the diamond here. This guy's old, folks. Carlos Santana. Dubo, you listening? 7% owned on Yahoo. He's the number 30th first baseman in fantasy right now, averaging 2 points a game. Played in 31 games, just 21 hits and 126 plate appearances. 4 doubles, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, 9 runs, 11 walks, and 22 Ks. He's slashing 188, 278, 330. The OPS is in the low 600s, just ugly. But he's unlucky. Expected batting average is 230. It's 42 points higher than his actual, and that expected slugging is 381. Be 50 points higher than his actual as well. And remember, this guy was in the top 30 in the league with 33 doubles last year. He's got 4 this year, but really behind the pace. Walk rate, it's good at 8.7, but this is a guy that was elite walk rate every year of his career, 13, 14, 15%. So I don't like to see that. Strikeout rate, he makes up for that walk rate this year so far at 17.5, way below the average and in line with his career norms. Always been a high walker, low strikeout guy. Above average whiff and chase rates, although he's always been kind of average in that respect throughout his career. His whiff rate's up a bit by 1.6, and this chase rate is up 4% versus career norms. Still makes exceptional contact in the zone, posting an almost 86% contact rate. He's not been that high since his sophomore season back in 1862 or something. It is, I will note too, he's up 4% over the MLB average and a full 3% in that contact rate versus last season. But it's looking at his contact when he chases, that's a huge reason for a large drop off in his contact numbers and his overall stats included. Generating contact just 51% of the time. That is a full 13% worse than last season and his career average. Not good. Exit velo's above average. He has improved that just a little bit over a percent. Barrels and hard hit rate are just sitting below the MLB average, and barrels are flat with last year, but that hard hit rate is up 2.5%. Looking back in the history of baseball, there's real little precedent for a player rebounding from a start like this at his age. but he still packs, some pop, some punch with his bat, even at his 30. He just turned 38 a couple weeks ago. Every season, there's always a stretch here in the last few seasons there where he does remind us that, he's not the consistent force he once was when he was younger with Cleveland. But he can still swing it. From June 1st on last season, he had a 247, 316, 464 slash line with a 30 homer pace. So I really think that he's got some more in the tank than we give him credit for. Everybody gives him credit for as well. So, and the Twins have been playing hot. They just won 12 in a row. It was snapped just the other day. And it was, of course, against the White Sox. I think the Angels, the Red Sox. So not great competition, but they put up 84 runs in that stretch. And in 4 out of those 5 games in that stretch, he hit a homer. He's heating up. Don't underestimate team momentum either like that. You start winning like that, really helps morale, and it could really jumpstart someone like Santana. If you got some room for him, I'd stash him.
Yeah. And he's somebody looking at his BABIP at 198, he's always had a lower career BABIP throughout his career, right? But 198 is just way too low. I didn't even know it went that low. He's always been a pull hitter, but he's hitting the ball on the ground a lot more than he has in years past. So that's a little bit of concern. But look, this man is a professional hitter with an excellent control over the strike zone. He's got a good eye at the plate. He showed last year with the, over 20 home runs, over 30 doubles, that there's still some pop in his bat. I think he is hey, it's hot out, I'm doing better now type of player. I want to get him a week or two early and just kind of let him sit there and continue to heat up. But I don't think he's somebody who will be able to carry it through the entire summer. And so maybe you get a month to 6 weeks worth of usage out of him. But still, that's 4, 5, 6 matchups that you can help put in the bag on your march towards the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So, because this is how shit works on this podcast, I always get stuck talking about players from Ohio. Piss on Ohio. Cleveland Guardians, Tyler Freeman. The dude plays all over the diamond, and they are getting their ass kicked today, 8-7 by the Detroit Tigers. He's owned in about 15% of leagues, so he's readily and widely available. Triple slash a 204, 301, 347. OPS just under 650. He's gone yard 3 times. He's driven in a dozen. He's got 4 steals, 9 walks, 20 strikeouts. Anytime I see an on-base percentage 100 points higher than a batting average, I'm a happy camper, because that means that somebody is drawing walks regardless of how well they're actually hitting. He's got almost a 40-point difference between his batting average and expected average, a little over a 50-point difference with his slugging and expected slugging, and about 30 points with his WOBA and ex-WOBA. He's got above average hard contact, exit velo at just under 90 miles an hour, a barrel rate over 7%, a hard hit rate approaching 46%. I'm happy with that, right? He's got a solid chase and whiff rates. He's above average in both regards, and his 19.8% whiff rate is in the top 25% of players. He's another dude with a very low BABIP, just 224. He's got something interesting, though. His line drive rate is down 10 points. His ground ball rate is down 3 points, and his fly ball rate is up 13 points to 40.5%. His pull rate is well above average at 45.6%. And typically we know what that means, right? You want to hit home runs, you lift and pull. And that's what he is doing. He's got an excellent 83.1% contact rate, just a hair under 90% in the zone, and his swinging strike rate sits at just 7.9%. So the man knows what he's doing at the plate. And he moves around the back half of the order. He'll hit anywhere between 6 and 8. He's got decent raw power, but not much game power. And just in case you don't know the difference, raw power is how far can you hit the ball. Game power is how many home runs are you going to hit. He's a dude that just puts the ball in play. He's shown, over the past couple of years to be a hitter who's somewhere in the 240s in terms of average, and I think he'll get there. And I absolutely love the eligibility all over the diamond and in the outfield. Players like that, I love to have on my bench that I can just kind of plug in wherever, and they're not necessarily going to replace the production that you got from your starter, because that player is a starter for a reason, right? But if you can have somebody who can play 3 or 4 different spots on the diamond, that means you can have a shorter bench for your hitters and more pitchers on your bench.
Absolutely. I was just gonna say that, but really did well last year in the second half, making adjustments. He hit his first home run on August 20. He played all year, not every game, but all year. He hit his first home run on August 26. After that, he had some of his best marks in his career in the power category. So barrel rate before August 26, 0. After August 26, 9.5. Hard hit rate jumped almost 4% from before to after August 26. And the biggest surprise was the launch angle. Before August 26, 1.9. After, 14.5%. That is a big jump in launch angle. And when you combine that with both the increases in the barrel and the hard hit, usually indicates a player's making huge adjustments at the plate. They're, like you mentioned, they're taking advantage of that, and he has the power to lift the damn ball. So, and that multi-position eligibility is a very good added value. I like it. I like him this year.
Sweet. Who are we going to round this out with?
We are going with, man, he's actually been very good fantasy outfielder this year. I'm talking about Bryan De La Cruz with the Miami Marlins. He's number 23. He is the number 23 fantasy outfielder this season, averaging 2.6 points per game. In 37 games, I think that's all of them, 39 hits and 160 plate appearances. 25 of those 39 were singles, does have 8 doubles, 6 homers, 19 RBIs, 20 runs scored, 11 walks, strikes out a bunch. He's got 40 and throw in a stolen base as well. He's slashing 264, 313, 439 for a 752 OPS. That's all pretty league average stuff, slightly above. I kind of like it, but that batting average is 22% or 22 points lower than his expecting batting average of 286, which is in the top 16% of the league. I might mention slugging 439 is a full 80 points lower than his expected slugging of 519, which is in the top percent of baseball. He's been luckier with his BABIP at 320. He's a guy that can kind of carry a higher BABIP. He was a bit above average the last 3 seasons as well. Walk rates at 6.9, so lower than you want. He's in the bottom 30%, but has improved slightly over last season. Strikeout rate also on the bottom 30% at 25 flat. And he is up 2.3 versus last season. Exit velo, even though it's low at 88.1, he's still hitting the ball, with some authority. Hard hit rate at 43.1 is in the top 40% in the league. He's up 0.5% over last season, so not much, but still an improvement. And his barrels is where it's at. He's got 11.9 rate. He's finding himself in the top 19% in the league, with an improvement of over 3% from last season and 2% higher than his career norms. Plate discipline needs to be a little bit closer to his season last year. I expect it will get better. His chase and whiff rates are both in the bottom 19% of the league. But he is generating some contact in the zone. It's almost 76%. It is 6% lower than league average and 2.5% lower than last year. Even more problematic for him is his contact when he chases pitches out of the zone. He was pretty average in that stat last year with a 59.4 chase contact rate. This season he's almost down from 10%, so he just needs to be a little bit more patient. I still think it says kind of a lot about him being a high fantasy outfielder while on the Marlins team with only 10 wins or something like that. Hell, they just traded their best hitter to the Padres, so I like that he plays every game, whether it's in the outfield. He's DH several times as well this season. He's hit anywhere from the 3 to 7 hole to start the season, but you see him consistently batting second in the order since mid-April. So, extra at bats, more chances for production, more chances for fantasy points. I think, you stash him, you grab him, you should view him as a depth option for your outfield positions. I don't totally recommend him in Roto just because of his lack of consistency and on-base skills. That might reward on base or plate discipline, but I love his stash in all points leagues.
Yeah. And what does it say about this dude where he's a top 20 outfielder, yet he can still be, I guess, looked at as unlucky?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
His expected stats, like you said, they're all top 20%, top 10%, just depending on what it is. And you see these gaps, right? The 20-point difference between batting average and expected, and slugging is over 50, 60 points.
Yeah.
You look at the average batting average, the average expected batting average, the difference, 7 points. You look at the difference for slugging, it's 17 points, 19 points. For WOBA and ex-WOBA, it's 7 points, right?
Yeah.
So these are generally pretty closely clustered together. He is, God, if he played for like any other team but the Marlins,
yeah, no kidding.
Just imagine the season he'd be having. You talked about his BABIP at 320. That's actually his career average.
Yeah.
So he's doing good there. And one thing with BABIP to remember, it's not all right, it's over 300, that means you're good, or it's under 300, that means you're bad. BABIP is unique to everybody.
Yeah.
And you look at him just over his last 10 games, 5 extra base hits, 5 RBIs, 6 walks, only 7 strikeouts, and an 860 OPS.
Yeah. It's pretty good. 47% rostered. It's pretty
47% rostered. Yeah. I mean, my ass needs to make a home for him on my team. I lost
Right.
Lane Thomas. I pick up Mark Canna, and he decided, no, I'm done doing good. And so, you can come on, join Detroit Mustard Tigers. But no, I mean, dude's a free swinger, but considering he's less than 50% owned, if you can get somebody like that, absolutely pick them up. I might look at picking him up and throwing him right in my lineup.
Heck yeah.
Unless you get to it first.
Could happen.
So this has been a fun little exercise.
Yes, it is.
Something a little bit new for us, diving a little bit deeper into the data, and neither one of us are data scientists by any stretch, but
no. And I think we're going to do something similar with pitchers next Tuesday, right?
Yeah. We can
so
look
that'll
at
be
some pitchers who have been unlucky.
Yep, absolutely. Love it. We're going to be back Thursday night, guys, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's right. 2 start pitchers again, low owned, great matchups. We'll identify some for you for that'd be week 8, I guess, technically. And some great waiver targets as well coming Thursday evening. Super. Love it. All right.
Yep.
Anything else?
Just if you haven't already, throw us a like and subscribe. We're building a community here. We love getting all the chat comments. We answer every single question, whether you ask it live or in the comments afterward. We're here to help you and have a little bit of fun along the way. And a big shout out to not only Buffalo Sway, but Loud Boy for putting together that cool intro you saw at the beginning of the show. We're both very, very thrilled to have that. So much
awesome.
love, fellas. Appreciate it. You guys are the best.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thursday.
Stay stoned.
Stay